Privilege of the floor. Anybody here today? Doesn't appear to be. So I guess we'll start with the minutes. Everyone's had a chance maybe to read the minutes. Is there any additions or corrections that need to be considered? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
So
from last
moved.
meeting. John moves. Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And it's approved. Jumping to the treasurer's report.
Not much to report on with the local development corporation. You'll notice that the checking account balance is down when you look at the balance sheet, but there were a lot of payouts for some of the grants like the child care, the rental property. Significant amount of money went out this month as part of those grants. The only well, I can't call it a delinquency, the Deprencios is consistently running and it's a timing issue. They show up on this report as 30 days late, but it always comes after the report period. So other than that, everything looks consistent with what we would expect.
Does anybody have any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Some
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Committee reports. Start with Jay.
Well, good morning, everybody. Everybody.
Or wait a minute, I'm sorry. I jumped up. We do have under committee, I'm sorry. Council reports. I confused council reports. I skipped over committee reports. We didn't have any. Do we have any committees? I had. Okay. All right. Jay, you're back up.
But wait.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So everybody should have a copy. This is basically the details of the round two food resiliency grant program. The application is available on our website. This is active today. This is the first day that we'll start accepting applications. This will go through, applications will be accepted up until December 1st, 2023, with the plan to have all of the awards made by January 31st, 2024. So with the value-added food program, we have $100,000 that the county has allocated towards value-added food processing for this year. We also have funds left over from last year. I think it's around $70,000 because of one big project that didn't happen, and then a couple small projects that didn't happen, and then money left over. So we've got some money to roll over into value-added food processing. This year, the thing we're doing differently is we're also doing production agriculture. That's actually the second part of the photocopies. The production agriculture will do grants for farms and food businesses that are going to grow the crop, raise the livestock, or harvest that crop or livestock. So, for example, if there is a person out there growing honeyberries, and there actually is, and he needs a piece of equipment to help him harvest those honeyberries versus pick it by hand, he could potentially apply for a grant to purchase that harvest. The other thing we're doing differently this year is there's a 10% match requirement. Last year, we didn't require a match, even though I think all of the applications did have money that they put into it of their own. This year, we're actually requiring that. So we're very excited about this. This is a cooperative project between Cornell Cooperative Extension and our office in Jefferson County. We're one of the few counties, in fact, we might be the only county that is doing something like this with the American Recovery Act funds. Yeah.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
So the last round, you didn't require a match. Were there issues with that?
No.
Okay, so, I mean, I like the idea of the they have to have some skin in the game too. And I was just curious if something had happened.
No, that was the idea behind it. Rob.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We have the other programs.
First round, we thought we'll do it without a match and see how it works out, see if we get applications. This time we thought, and because with the other grant programs, we do require a match, we thought, all right, let's require a match, but still keep it a relatively small.
This is great.
It's,
I mean, just a reminder, last round, some had more match than others.
Right.
But you may recall an earlier report, is that when we take all the funds we distributed, we more than met, basically the investment was double what the actual county.
Oh, I got you.
was. So,
and,
We like right
It
now.
doesn't have an NDC.
and, the results of this, for the most part, have been phenomenal. I've talked about Bishaw's gelateria and cheese up in Clayton. This has just had phenomenal results for them. They are so ecstatic. They actually are now, because of the equipment they purchased, they're planning to bottle milk now. So they'll have fresh milk, not raw milk. It'll be pasteurized, but they're going to bottle milk for distribution. So
What was that word you used? Gelateria?
gelateria.
What is?
Gelato.
Like a gelato.
Oh, what is it?
No, I know what gelato is. I just,
Yeah, it's called a gelateria, yeah. And actually, Kiara Altieri is the one that got me to start saying that, because she got a grant and they make gelato as well.
Was that discussed whether or not we could do a tour? I don't remember if we did.
We actually did do 2 tours
Which one?
of grant recipients, and I'd be happy to do them again, only I'd love to have people
I
show up,
think so.
so.
One comment I'll make is that with a grant being $10,000, a 10% contribution means you've got to show as an applicant $1,000 worth of input, cash input, which when you go back to assets of the facility, it doesn't have to be direct cash. It can be in kind.
No, it has to be cash.
It has to be cash.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you're going to get $10,000, you've got to put $1,000 cash. You can't use.
$1,000 would be if you're getting a $9,000 grant, so a $10,000 grant would be what?
11,100.
Yeah, it'd be, so say the total project cost is $10,000.
Right.
You could apply for 9,000, you'd have to put $1,000 of your own money in.
So you're not allowed in-kind contributions.
No.
Okay.
I've managed way too many grants over my career.
Yeah.
Where in-kind contributions were considered.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
But it could be that they buy $1,000 piece of equipment that accentuates what the
Yeah.
10,000.
yeah, yeah.
So what I think what Ed's saying,
Right.
it can't be their personal labor as an in-kind.
Well, like design fees or consulting or,
Well, that would probably be covered.
I would think
I
it
would want to go back and look at this language and make sure that that's
Is there
possible.
good, I'm sorry.
no, you're good.
Is there a scoring process? Because we talk about bee shaws, we talk about the honeybees. Are we going to try to push this to new ventures, things that aren't existing, or these startups that are trying to get a little bit bigger like that?
Yeah.
Instead of just making bigger.
Each of the grant programs you'll see on the paper, it's outlined what the ranking criteria is. We also award points. In particular, we award points based on the type of product. So if you're going to do a fruit or vegetable-based product, because we don't have many of those in the county yet, we award more points for that than if you're gonna do a honey project. Honey project, you'll get very few points for. You can still get an award, but you'll get very few points in that category for that. So we're ranking fruits, vegetables, dairies, and meat higher than your honey and maple syrup. No alcoholic beverages in this round.
You just answered my second question.
We totally, I was picking up those thoughts.
Because I didn't know if I would consider that a protein food, but
More carbohydrate.
Yeah.
When you say protein foods, is that beef too?
Yeah, any of your meat products, plus you have to include soy and a couple other things under that protein category. So,
Where would coffee fit in this?
essentials.
Would it?
It would, I'm trying to think, I think it is considered a fruit. So if you wanted to grow coffee here in Jefferson County, if you could somehow prove to us that whatever value added if you're under the value added, if you were doing value added processing of something that was available locally to you, then you could do coffee.
But would you have to grow it? I mean, what if you're,
It would have to be grown here in Jefferson County.
so coffee's gonna be eliminated?
Right.
Pretty much.
I got one coffee bean once, my coffee bean.
I mean, and so, let's get crazy. Somebody could apply for money under well, we're discouraging receiving funds from both programs. You could apply for a greenhouse under the food production side. Then if there were around 3, in that greenhouse, you could grow coffee. And under round 3, then you could apply for processing. So I'm not saying it's not possible. There are people growing bananas in greenhouses in Canada.
But one of the big criteria is to enhance value added. It's gotta be grown here. That's the kind of the foundation.
Yeah, we don't want to get into somebody bringing in outside raw product and processing it here. That's not the purpose of this.
All right.
So this, like I said, this is available on agricultureevents.com. We will also mail applications if people request them. Obviously, we're about to do a big news blitz on it over the next couple of days. And between our office and Extension, we'll be promoting this very heavily. So.
And looking at the criteria, this doesn't rule out people from applying the second time.
Correct.
For a second round. It's just,
Correct.
but it does show up in the scoring process.
Correct. Yeah. To Paul's end, we want to try and encourage new applications.
I
How
wouldn't
much
be,
is available?
$10,000 on the available. Oh, I'm sorry.
Total.
$100,000 new money, $100,000 for value-added processing, $500,000 for the crop production. So, and we did see a lot of interest in that particular part in the last grant program, but we couldn't fund those projects. So.
yeah, and I guess we in production have to take our hats off to county government. This is a one of a kind.
It is.
The last round and this round, it's a
really
one of a
is.
kind. Yeah, great leadership. It's a great asset.
Yep, it really is.
Okay, anything else?
I think I took enough of your time. There's a lot going on, and we have an ag council meeting on Tuesday, so
Okay,
thank you.
thank you, Jay. Jumping to manufacturing.
Not too much. We just had a conference call yesterday with our counterparts in Lewis County. We're doing another Jefferson Lewis Manufacturing Alliance meeting, but it's going to be more of a roundtable networking event, kind of what we call the speed dating kind of format for manufacturers to network with one another. We found, in it's been a while, but another round of networking events we've done, just some of the discussion, you might find out that, okay, one company does powder coating and someone else needs that. So maybe there's an opportunity there to do that locally, instead of sending something to Syracuse, or someone has a testing device that another company might be able to do. So the idea is kind of foster those kind of relationships between our manufacturers between the two counties. So that's going to happen.
Yes.
Yeah. That was going to be allowable. The next one will be back in Jefferson County, so 14, 12.
Is the labor situation in manufacturing getting a little better?
I don't know. I think we just get used to it. I mean, the last round here we had back in the spring, that we did in Carthage, a lot of manufacturing production was up, order was up, and they're just basically dealing with it by either doing more automation or just a lot of cross training between their employees.
People are complaining about it like they were.
I think they're adjusting because I don't know if you'll ever see a change.
I agree.
Yeah, you're right.
This is the new
100%.
world. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
It was an interesting discussion you and I had yesterday about the difference between baby boomers and
The various
millennials,
generations.
various generations and their expectations
Yeah.
from employers.
Yeah, there's more and more people retiring every day too. All right. Anything else for manufacturing? Not, we jump to marketing.
Not a whole lot to report. I'm gonna mention that, our tourism, grant is, out, and, we did talk about it last board meeting. We currently got 13, responses. And, thank you to, Joy for helping with those. I've talked to a lot of these folks and discussed their projects, and we do continue to get some, productivity grants that have come through. That grant is reopened, and, links are on our website. So, everything's going well and smoothly, and, Joy's doing an awesome job with that. A couple of advertising things that we've done recently. We have added, some things to our NPR, which I do like, our NPR campaign. We're looking at some different, things regarding our website, which I talk about. I've been put under a deadline to get some of these things worked out. We had a meeting about it yesterday. It was the day before. So things are going very well there. What was the other thing that I wanted to touch base on? I lost it. It was something important. One other thing about the website, I mean, it's marketing at its basic point is our URL. I don't love that we focus on JCIDA.com. Our marketing shows a lot of growjeffersoncounty.com, which is a URL we own. We've looked at JCED.com. And the owner wants an exorbitant amount of money for that. It's for sale, it's being held to sell. I'm stunned at the amount of money that they're looking for that. And we can't do that under good conscience. So we looked at it, we talked to them, had a very brief negotiation process. But we're gonna stick pushing Grow Jefferson County. .com. I do, like a lot of folks, I go, when I look at JCIDA.com is how I access our website. Is that how you folks all do it too? We actually own a number of URLs that point to that website. Things like we had during COVID, Jefferson County Recovery Team, when we're focusing on how do we come out of this whole thing. But so that's just one thing that I did want to talk about was our URL, because it is so important, and having people be able to find us as easy as possible. Now, when you type in Jefferson County, I think we're the 4th site that pops up, which is pretty good. I mean, if you type up just Jefferson County Economic Development, obviously we're coming up number 1. So we are organic search is working very well for us. So our SEO is doing very well. But I just want to touch on that. I mean, because at some point, folks are going to be like, JCED.com. Why is that not ours? And that's something that I've struggled with. But it's just so expensive that we're just not going to do it. So
The people who own that now, currently, the entity, what was that standing for?
It doesn't stand for anything. It's under, I think it just shows it under construction, nothing.
Years ago, people would go out and figure companies that had it, they'd buy up all the URLs and then try to market them to people. And I thought that they had started clamping down on that.
Oh, that's a business. It continues. The URL. If anything, it's gotten worse because as the prices have gotten worse. So yeah, it's.
I use JCIDA.net, and I think we're worrying too much about trying to. If you have some that point to that, that's fine. But
yeah, we have a number of different ones that point to it. So
I wouldn't. you know, people that are looking for us will find us.
Yep.
Okay, that it's not worth paying anybody anything for a special URL, because then you gotta get people used to using it.
In the organic search, we do get a high percentage of our traffic from someone typing into Google Jefferson County and then clicking onto our website as opposed to typing JCIDA. Now, most of the people that are going to our website, a lot of those people are in this room, and it's, I mean, 99% of it's me. So it's not, you know, critical, but I agree 100%.
No, but it's there if somebody's in Colorado and they're looking, you know, there's some connections here and they're looking to perhaps start a business here. Or
Yep.
You know, so that's those, I bet, you know. there's probably
And
some
they can
there.
find us. They can find us.
It's kind of return on investment. It was a reasonable cost to be worth doing, but you have to cost.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But along those lines, I mentioned last meeting that we're looking at, you know, continue to look at the issues that might be involved in formally changing JCLDC to Jefferson County Economic Development. We have the DBA now. Spoken with Justin, doesn't see any legal issue with existing contracts or agreements. Spoken to our accountants, they see there's no issues there. I mean, we can pay bills now for JCED, you know, there's still a legal DBA for LDC, so. But we'll talk in terms of staff, talk more to our accountants and Justin, and maybe have some more concrete for you in the next meeting to discuss.
What, your deadline that the boss imposed, is that 60 days? Or?
No, it's actually 4 days.
Oh, 4 days. Oh, I was gonna suggest, well, maybe at the next meeting, you could just take 5 minutes and go through the new website.
Absolutely.
What it is, give us a few days to basically talk to the consultant, just kind of find out what the cost might be, either total redesign or just kind of modifications, that kind of thing. So,
We have a lot of space on our website that is not optimized. There are, everything on your website, it basically is paying rent. And we have a couple of blank spaces that we don't like. I believe we don't need a full redevelopment of the website. We need some tweaking and some things. Our website works very well, but there's just some tweaking that could be, you know, make it better. So,
Okay. Anything else?
don't think-
Any questions? All right.
and just knowing that Robin's working on newsletters coming out shortly. So,
I think Jay has a
Yeah, Jay.
comment.
Just real quick, I forgot to mention the podcast. I don't know if anybody's caught the latest podcasts, Jay Madison's Rural America. Some really interesting ones on the lake effect lightning study, which was really cool. Don't stand next to a wind tower in a lake effect snowstorm. And then also on what to expect from all of the heat down in the Gulf of Mexico. It was really cool. We had the leading hurricane forecaster for the United States on the podcast. This afternoon, at her request, we'll be joined again by Congresswoman Claudia Tenney. She's coming back on and wants to talk more about the farm bill and what's going on with that. So we're starting to get some pretty interesting traffic with the podcast and stuff.
Since you stood up again, I'm sorry to go backwards if it's
Go ahead.
okay.
We're not on a tight schedule today.
You mentioned, the question was asked about engineering or design, and am I reading this wrong?
Eligible.
Paying for training, feasibility studies, engineering, architectural studies, or reports and fees are not eligible expenses.
Grant fees cannot pay for that, but especially now that there's a 10% match, you could
Okay.
use that.
So that would be eligible as your match. Okay.
So in other words, they can't just fund a design or a study, I mean, and then that's it.
I think,
But if say they need to, you know, add on to a building, which involves a construction project, and there's gonna be some design engineering.
those
that kind of-
are
that's part
your
of the project.
contribution. Okay.
Right, but it's gonna result in a final product, as opposed to just a study or just an engineering design.
Thank
That's
you.
not- That's not.
You answered my
built.
question.
It's called skin in the game.
Yeah.
Jay, under marketing though, your podcast, are you seeing increased viewer views as you go along?
I'll be honest, I have not figured out what I'm doing right or wrong as far as tracking that stuff. I have lots of people that come to me and say, love the podcast, listen to it all the time. But when I try to track the numbers, sometimes it doesn't make sense. Like with Claudia Tenney or Elise Stefanik or Congress or Senator Gillibrand, you get them on there and you're getting an audience, but it's not showing up. And so I've got to find somebody that has a little bit more technical capability of tracking that stuff. Because, I mean, I'll be at a store and somebody stops me and says, hey, love the podcast this week. And you're like, wow.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's kind of a growing sector. I mean, podcasts, you see different podcasts around the country that, start out and they grow, and all of a sudden you've got this real force. As far as communicating.
The other, in all honesty, we don't do everything we could and should to promote the podcast because it's not what you pay me to do as, a big part of my job. This is a piece of the overall picture. So I try to spend the appropriate amount of time. So some of that growth, we just allow it to happen organically versus going out and really marketing podcasts like others do.
Although you got a pretty good, I'm not endorsement with a news junkie, right?
Yeah,
So your podcast was linked in a news junkie for that one episode. Right?
Because I was talking to him about, what it would take to get it on there. And he said, don't worry about paying me, just send me the links. If I like it, I'll put it up. If I don't, I won't. That's Steve. So,
But you had one that was one of the weather-related ones that really got a lot of traction.
well, the earthquake.
That's
one,
that one, that's what it was.
The earthquake one, we had high schools all over New York State using that earthquake podcast in class to talk about.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And that was huge. The response we got from that was huge.
Okay.
It's not economic development per se, but it's rural.
I believe it is.
A lot of the issues are, there's some good discussion.
All right. Let's move on to unfinished business. Is there any? What do we have?
Just to report on where we're at with ARPA funds, send a report to the county each month. And next month, we'll have a contract in here for the JPC for the next round of child care funding.
Okay. Council, anything from you, Justin? Okay. New business? Lyle, Dave, nothing? All right,
We adjourn.
yes. Motion to adjourn? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned.
Okay, I'm standing in for Rob for this half. So I will call the JCIDA meeting to order. And we'll again go to minutes. Is there any questions about the minutes? If not, a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
David, Ed, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Treasurer's report, Paul.
Treasurer's report, I'll point out again that we will fall way short on the pilot fees. They've had no new fees, and I don't expect, except for maybe one project if Lawman moves forward, to be the only other one we may see closed this year, potentially. So that'll be a shortfall in our projections. I don't see any of the large solar projects making it to the point where we would have an agreement in place by the end of this calendar year.
We will have North American tapes, and I'll have Justin report later on Wednesday.
Okay, that's news to me.
What's that rounded lump sum? I don't, we're trying to get to it.
It's, we budgeted 1.2 million and we've taken in 82,000.
We'll still be way under.
We're gonna be way under, but
Point is, yeah, we're
we have to make,
$1 million mark.
so, the only other thing worthy to point out is that we will be taking up some business to write off a loan later in the meeting. The balance sheet is consistent with where it was last month in expenditures, and that would be it, unless there's questions.
Motion to accept the treasurer's report.
So moved.
I have one quick question first. On our miscellaneous receivables, page 9. Seems like our 10-volt energy tends to, I don't know,
That's out there, and that was going to be a payment made when we closed on all the arrangements, wasn't it? We
That one
reported.
is, yes.
so all these invoices that are out there,
They've been out there consistently for the last 6-8 months. Yeah.
That's what we're planning on when we finally close or whatever. I just hate seeing them sit out there.
We'll have an opportunity to talk later.
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, is that, I mean, those are bills payable and people like to get paid. I mean, is there some negotiation that,
Those are receivables to us, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
that's what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's,
I mean, we've talked about that several times, that it was put out there and we were going to receive that upon closing on all the final arrangements. I mean, if there's a difference of
Well-
opinion on how we should proceed with those or try to collect those earlier, that's up to the board to
as long
decide.
as
But
we're on that path, we might as well stay there. My opinion.
But that's what it is, Dave. I think you can see if you go back to even probably the beginning of the year, they've been out there a long time.
I understand that, but what's happening is we're dragging, you know,
Oh, I understand.
we're three and a half years down the road now from when this thing started, and I just,
Lyle, do you know when those were incurred?
Early on in the process, there were some legal fees, there were some engineering fees for rock depths. I believe it was at the airport,
Like when we get under unfinished business, it's been about that further.
over a year.
Now, again, motion to accept the treasurer's report.
So moved.
In a second.
I'll move it.
Ed, is there any further discussion on the treasurer's report? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Committee reports, corporate park ad hoc committee.
Dave sent an email out yesterday. We had another meeting that went very well. I think we're on a way to resolving some of those issues, maybe not completely, but I think everyone would be happy with the results. Joel Bartlett, the supervisor, was at the meeting. He seemed acceptable to creating a specific zone for the park. There's some little issues out there that I think council's going to report back to the planning board on before it goes to the town board, but I was very happy with the way they were proceeding.
Yeah, Marshall, Rob, Paul and I were there. They seem basically creating a special zone for the corporate park, incorporating the basic elements of our covenants within the zoning so that they're consistent. There's some discussion about the pros and cons of that, but I think they understand that, you know, we're not trying to get out of any kind of responsibility. And not even putting any more responsibility on them, it's just making things consistent, which is going to be to their benefit as well as.
They have some hard questions about, their definition versus our definition, and I think we worked our way through that.
I think the idea is we're meeting their needs with what they need, right? We just have a few more layers to it, but there needs to be that. Yeah.
So, and I think the tenants will be happy with it too. So.
Well, that'll resolve past and future conflict. That-
It should make it easier. There still may be conflicts. They still have the right, let's assume they could apply for a variance from zoning, which may come back with that. We may have to go through our process to amend. If, let's say they approve a project that's not consistent, we can then try to get the corporate tenants to agree to amending the covenants to allow it, just like we did with, I want to make sure I say it correctly, Marshall, Aviagen. Aviagen. Remember, we just did that with their side little building and we did North American Tapes. So when a project comes forward that doesn't meet the covenants, doesn't mean we aren't going to consider it and try to build consensus to allow it by amending or getting the tenants to approve it, so.
I may recall too, we did, FedEx added a modular unit on
Yeah,
their
so.
facility or building as well. And we, again, shared that with the council.
As long as everybody agrees, it works.
It was a good meeting, I thought.
Yeah, we're-
I think you're next again, Paul.
We have not had a meeting since then, since the last meeting with alternative energy.
Okay, unfinished business.
Arsenal Street continues to move ahead. Everything still is on schedule to be completed in November, but they're planning to open in December this year. So,
Well,
I'll start working.
I mean, they're while they're
Nice
closing,
try.
you know,
How many
they're
people
putting in
believe that?
flooring, they're, you know, painting, putting in benches in the locker rooms and finishing up tiles and things like that.
It's wonderful to get another tour of that before they do open.
We can
Yeah,
arrange
to
that.
see how far they come.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Yeah, let's us be the soft opening, right?
It's a quick workout.
We'll talk to you, I think generally, if it works, we can try to do something like late in the afternoon, like a 3:30. They figure that's easier, that's by that, most of the work is kind of done by then.
Yeah.
So, just
Cool.
now. Right. We'll talk to you. We have our weekly meeting later this morning. Again, we do weekly progress meetings with Denise and the architects and the general contractor. So, Giselle is doing a great job managing this thing. So, you know, sitting in those meetings, like, God, that's a whole talent of its own. To be able to do that. All the pieces make it.
Did you have anything else on unfinished
Yeah,
business?
I'd like to ask if we could go in executive session to discuss the personal financials of an individual corporation.
So moved.
Second.
Staff, I'll move it and staff and council can stay.
All in favor, aye?
I
Opposed? We'll move into executive session.
Gonna put you in the waiting room, Craig.
So Conval, so,
One quick step.